From Ben-Hur, 1959, to Cleopatra, 1963, movies fixed one version of the Roman soldier in our minds, but reality? Legionaries weren't frozen in time. Next time you picture a Roman legionary, remember, he wasn't just a Hollywood extra in a shiny costume. He was a soldier adapting to his world-cold winters in Britain, burning heat in Spain, or endless marshes in Gaul. So here's the question. If the real Roman soldier looked so different from the movies, how much else about history has Hollywood shaped for us? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'll be reading them. Their look evolved every 10 to 20 years in small ways, and every 100 to 200 years in major ways. Imagine 1,000 years of history, but movies show us just one costume. And even within the same century, a soldier on the freezing frontiers of Scotland looked very different from one sweating under the Spanish sun. Geography, climate, and resources all shaped the uniform. Let's start with the basics. Did every soldier wear red? Not really. Red dye was expensive. Most legionaries wore undyed woolmore, off-white then bright red. Some had thin colored stripes called clavi to show status. And yes, wool not linen was the standard fabric early on. Oddly enough, wool kept them cool and protected them from heat too. Neck scarf, Focale, that small scarf under the armor. It wasn't fashion, it was protection. Without it, metal armor would cut the skin raw during long marches. Footwear, the caligae, the famous Roman sandals, thick-soled, studded with nails for grip, and tied tight around the ankle. But could you imagine soldiers in snowy Britain wearing open sandals? Absolutely not. Archaeology proves they wore socks, sometimes even trousers in colder regions. Function over style, even if it looked like bad fashion. Cloak, the paenula. Think of it as the Roman version of a raincoat and sleeping bag in one. It protected from wind, rain, and cold nights. Soldiers wrapped themselves in it to sleep. Chainmail, lorica hamata, borrowed from the Gauls. This was thousands of iron rings linked together. Heavy up to 16 kilos, but reliable and easy to repair. Plate armor, lorica segmentata. Here's the Hollywood favorite. Lighter than chainmail with interlocking metal plates strapped around the chest. Sleek, shiny, and intimidating, but not as common as we think. It was expensive, harder to maintain, and mostly seen in the Empire's west. In the east, soldiers stuck with chainmail. Scale armor, lorica squamata, rows of tiny metal scales stitched onto fabric. Flexible, protective, but heavier. By the late 2nd century, it became more popular, especially for officers. The helmet, the classic Roman helmet we imagine bronze or iron, with cheek guards and sometimes a horsehair crest, was not universal. Early helmets were Celtic-inspired with simple shapes, later becoming more complex with face guards and nose protectors. Centurions often stood out with sideways crests so soldiers could easily spot them in battle. The scutum shield, the giant curved rectangle, tall enough to cover the body, perfect for forming the famous testudo, the tortoise formation. But again, not always. Early shields were oval, later they became flat or round. The belt, singulum, not just for holding weapons, it was a badge of honor. Losing it was a punishment, a symbol of disgrace. The gladius, short sword, the weapon Rome is most famous for. Short, sharp, and deadly in close combat. Designed for stabbing, not slashing. It came in different styles over time, with the Hispaniensis being the most famous. But by the 3rd century, it was replaced by the spatha, a longer sword better for fighting Germanic and Celtic tribes. The pugio, dagger, a soldier's backup weapon, but also used for daily tasks, getting food, fixing gear, or as a last resort in battle. The pilum, spear, a throwing spear with a long iron shank designed to bend after impact. Why? So enemies couldn't throw it back. Imagine a wall of spears flying in the opening moments of battle. That was the Roman way. So, what do we see? There was never just one Roman legionary look. A battlefield in the 1st century might show soldiers in chainmail, plate, and scale armor standing side by side. Shields of different shapes, weapons evolving, clothing changing with climate. The Roman army wasn't about uniformity, it was about adaptability. That's why they conquered half of Europe, parts of Asia, and even Africa.